Alright, I have some things I want to talk about. So, last night, my favorite team, the Pittsburgh Steelers, which you can obviously tell because of my shirt, they played against the Browns last night in Cleveland for a Thursday night matchup. That game, I mean, stat-wise and how everything went in general, for both teams, it's probably one of the worst NFL games that has ever happened. For the Steelers, for the whole fight, I'll get into that. But first, I'm going to talk about how the teams played, statistically. The Steelers, probably their worst performance, offensively and defensively, since they played the Patriots back in Week 1. The Steelers lose this game 21-7. It was, I almost said it was their biggest loss of the year, but no, their biggest loss was New England. And if my brother starts laughing at any point randomly, it's because he's watching The Office on his computer right now. Anyway, so Mason Rudolph had his career worst game. He had one touchdown, but he threw 4 interceptions. So, and one of them was on a flea flicker. I had high hopes going into this game. I had the Steelers winning. Because you look and see how both these teams have played recently. The Steelers are 5-4 going into this game, despite starting the year 0-3. Alright, they're finally got their crap together and have won 5 of their next 6 games. And their only loss between that span was an overtime loss against the Ravens. So now they're 5-4. All right, they finally have a winning record for the first time this season after they beat Los Angeles Rams last week. I'm used to calling them St. Louis. And then you look at a Cleveland team who's 3-6, who started the season with a blowout loss against the Titans. The Browns had so much hype going into this season, and now you look at them now, they're 4-6. I'm pretty sure people had them like only losing 2 or 3 games at this point. But they've lost 6 games. Alright? The Steelers could only score 7 points against this Browns team, and they let the Browns score 21. Despite Baker Mayfield. Alright, I'm going to be honest, and you guys might rip at me on this, but I think Baker Mayfield is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL. Now, his performance last night may reverse that for some of you, but going into that game, or actually, no, I should say going into the season, you know, Baker Mayfield finally brings some hope to Cleveland, as when he came in, they almost finished with a winning record last year, and then they have high hopes this year. Oh, we're going to go to the playoffs. We could possibly even win the division. And then Baker Mayfield, before this game started, last night, he had 9 touchdowns and 12 interceptions on the year, which was an improvement because at one point, I think last week, or the week that the Steelers played the Colts, Baker Mayfield had 5 touchdowns and 11 interceptions on the year. Most interceptions out of a quarterback so far, maybe. I'm pretty sure that is, but that is my opinion. I actually think Baker Mayfield is the most overrated quarterback in the NFL right now. Some of you might argue, oh, no, it's Sam Darnold. No, I did not. Nobody thought he was going to be good this year after it was terrible last year. I mean, yeah, he might have been overrated last year because, oh, he's going to be great because he played great at USC. No. Baker Mayfield played good at Oklahoma, and now he did okay. He did pretty good at the Browns last year, but I mean, he is improving this year, but he's not as good as people said he was going to be. And then you look at Mason Rudolph, who has to come in Week 2 after Ben Roethlisberger suffers a season-ending injury against Seattle, has to have surgery. He's hopeful he could come back next year. And in my opinion, I don't really want Ben Roethlisberger to come back. I think he should retire. All right, he's been in the league he's been with the Steelers since 2004. He's been the starter since 2004, besides getting injured. He's never been benched. The only times he didn't play in a game was if he got hurt. He's helped the Steelers go to 3 Super Bowls, won 2 of them. Super Bowl 40 against the Seahawks, Super Bowl 43 against the Cardinals, but then they lost Super Bowl 45 against the Packers. I think Mason Rudolph is honestly a good replacement for Ben Roethlisberger. Mason Rudolph has played exceptionally well this year, you know, and I always had high hopes for him going into like preseason this year, preseason last year, especially preseason this year. This was before I knew Ben was going to get hurt. I told Player One Gaming, Ethan, because he came over for one of the games, I said, if Ben Roethlisberger somehow gets hurt at some point this season, Rudolph has to come in, I think he'd be a good replacement. And I was right. Now, everybody has a bad game. Mason Rudolph's, this game last night was one of his. Alright, no quarterback's going to be, every great quarterback in the NFL has had at least one terrible game. It just happens. Nobody's perfect. I mean, you can't expect to, like, have, like, never throw an incompletion or never throw an interception or stuff like that. It just happens. Everybody has a bad game, but I'm not making that as an excuse. I am personally disgusted at how the way the Steelers played last night. I thought it was one of the worst games I have ever seen from the Steelers in my life. Besides, this was the second one. The first one was back in the Patriots in Week 1. But at least in this game, the Steelers could score a touchdown. So this was the Steelers' second worst game this year. Their worst was against the Patriots. Now, everything started out terrible when Mayfield threw that huge pass to Odell, which they thought was a score, but it turned out it was a yard short. But then Mayfield sneaks it in anyway, makes it 7-0. Steelers can't do anything. Browns get the ball back, get back to the goal line. And then Mayfield throws it to a wide open man. I mean, he was wide open in the end zone. And then just at halftime, Browns had a 14-0 lead. The Steelers ended up scoring a touchdown on a 3-yard pass to make it 14-7. But then the Browns scored again to make it 21-7. Now, let's get into probably the worst thing that happened that night. The whole Myles Garrett incident. Now, if you don't know, I'm pretty sure most of you do know what happened. With about 8 seconds left, Rudolph handed the ball off to the running back, and then Myles Garrett takes down Rudolph. So whole, like, fighting starts to happen. You know, Myles Garrett has Rudolph on the ground, rips off his helmet for no reason. I mean, maybe Rudolph said something or did something that Garrett didn't like. But what Garrett did in response, what Garrett did in response was not acceptable at all. It should not happen in the NFL. Myles Garrett rips off Mason Rudolph's helmet. And then when Rudolph gets back up, he runs over to Garrett, you know, hoping to get his helmet back. And then David DeCastro, one of the linemen, was in the middle. So then Garrett turns around, jumps over, and tries to swing Rudolph's helmet at him. Hits him in the head, actually. And if you don't know, Myles Garrett has been suspended for the rest of the year. And he will be suspended if the Browns make the playoffs, and could be suspended for some point next year. And if you ask me, this could potentially be a career-ending incident. Like, he could have, I know this might sound ridiculous, but he honestly could have severely injured Rudolph that could have led to his death. If Garrett is a lot big, he's a much bigger man, he's a lot stronger man than Rudolph, because Mason Rudolph's only a quarterback and he's a defensive lineman. So he's a lot stronger than Rudolph. And he tries to swing a helmet, his own helmet, at him. And he has no protection on his head and actually does hit him in the head. Luckily, Rudolph is fine. But what Myles Garrett did is inexcusable, and this kind of stuff should not happen in the NFL. I think Myles Garrett is an idiot. I think what he did was really retarded. Alright? And if you ask me, I think the Steelers should press charges against Myles Garrett. That's what a lot of people are saying. That's what I'm saying. I think they should press charges against him. Oh, and by the way, during Myles Garrett's suspension, he won't receive any pay. So during this time, he's going to have to find something else for him to get his money. Because I mean, I don't know if he's getting paid as much as veterans because he's still in his rookie contract. And what he did, they're not going to pay him until he comes back. So he needs to find something else to do to get money until he can come back. And if you ask me, I don't think Myles Garrett should be able to come back. I think the NFL needs to suspend him forever. Because what he did was inexcusable, should have never happened. I know Myles Garrett said he lost his cool, but still, what were you thinking trying to full speed swing a helmet at someone who doesn't even have their helmet on, with their own helmet? And for what reason? I mean, he might have said something to you when you took him down to the ground that made you upset, but you just walk it off. There's also 8 seconds left in the game. Alright, just end the game and just get done with it, and you won. Good job. You won by 14. I don't know what Myles Garrett was thinking. And I think the Steelers should press charges against Derek. Why did I say Derek? Myles Garrett. And I think Mason Rudolph is suing Myles Garrett for what he did. You might think that that's a coward move, but what Myles Garrett did could have potentially killed Mason Rudolph. Literally. Like, if he had a full-blown swing that actually hit him in the head at the right angle, it could have had him in a serious head injury that could have led to his death, potentially. Luckily, Rudolph is fine, and he didn't suffer really any injury. He got hit with the bottom part of the helmet, so it wasn't really that bad. And he'll be back for next week against Cincinnati. So, but besides that stuff happening, that does not excuse the Steelers for how they played last night. If the Steelers are going to make the playoffs and they can't play like they did last night against Cleveland, all right, they have to get their crap together. I mean, I know they have an easy game next week against the Bengals. They're 0-9 and could potentially be 0-10 after this week. I don't know who the Bengals play, but I'm pretty sure they're going to lose against whoever they play. Because the Bengals are the worst team in the NFL right now, and they are going to be the worst team in the NFL. We all thought it was going to be the Dolphins, but oh, look, now they have 2 wins in a row. Bengals are the only winless team. So hopefully the Steelers can get their crap together. They have an extra amount of time to practice because they had the Thursday game. And they'll be back next week against Cincinnati. And then hopefully 2 weeks from now, they'll have their revenge against the Browns in Pittsburgh. It's probably what's going to happen. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you're not already. And then I will be back in my next video talking about if we think Michigan is going to beat Michigan State tomorrow. Alright. See you guys next time.
Steelers suck.